Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to Stuttgart. The Herald team are here live ahead of Scotland against Hungary in what is, it is fair to say, another big game. Scotland with the chance tonight to make history if they can win, presuming that 4 points is enough to make it into the final knockout stages of a tournament. Major tournament for the first time. The team is out. I will read you the team and then myself and Johnny McFarlane are going to talk through it. Scotland, as expected, to go with Angus Gunn in goals. The back five of Ralston, Hendry, Hanley, McKenna and Robertson. McGinn, Gilmore, McGregor and McTominay, and Che Adams up top. There was some rumours that he might be ill and therefore miss the game, but he does in fact start. We'll talk about the Hungary team too in a minute, Johnny, but first and foremost, your reaction to that team, which is kind of as expected.
Yeah, not much to say really other than this is absolutely how you would line up if you were choosing this team based on what we know about Steve Clarke. He's loyal to his players. Now, personally, I would have definitely put in James Forrest. I think Ralston struggled, and he gives Scotland an option in terms of driving forward into space on the right flank. I do get, though, Joshua, the alternative argument to that, which is then he becomes a liability at the back post and people will target him. So, listen, it's absolutely huge for Scottish football. It's huge for every single one of those players out there. We have a chance to make history tonight, to see history in action. Not many times you get the opportunity to say that, but genuinely, if Scotland go out there and win, it's a huge likelihood that they will go through. It's not guaranteed. Some crazy stuff could go down. It would be totally freak. We can't discount it. But for me, this game is massive on the right flank, Josh. It's a huge game for Tony Ralston. And listen, he's one of the less talented lads in that squad. There's no doubt about it. He's an honest trier. He's an SPFL player primarily. But he's got to step up to international level tonight and show what he's capable of. And if he does that, if he deals with the threat that Hungary have down that left side, which is not insignificant, as you pointed out in several pieces for the Herald this week, then I think Scotland can do it. But the only way they're going to do it, mate, the only way is if every single one of these players stands tall, and it's a huge team performance. Because Hungary are a very good side. They've beaten Germany and they've beaten England. People will look at what they've done in this tournament and say, not that impressive. But the game against Switzerland was really tight. It was a poor first half. They were very good in the second half. Against Germany, they made a much better fist of it than we did. So a really fascinating night of football ahead, and hopefully one that's epoch-making, one that defines a generation of this wonderful sport that we love, football.
Yeah, starting to get busy inside the Stuttgart arena. It's been another city that's been totally taken over by the Tartan army in and around the city in the last couple of days. The Hungary fans are making themselves heard at the moment. Let's speak through a couple of aspects of the team. Scott McKenna coming into the back three. There was some debate about would Clarke go to a back four because he had this issue on the right. It was clear. But we know he's a manager who's loyal. We know he's a manager who, you only have to look at the last tournament when he was loyal to a different right back in Stephen O'Donnell. But then simultaneously you have this issue on the left with Kieran Tierney being out. There was questions about, okay, the system has been built around these two players. It's been built around getting Tierney and Robertson into the same team. So will we therefore see something different? I always thought it was going to be a back five because change in shape at this point seemed unlikely. How do you think the dynamic will change with Scott McKenna? Because he's not a player who can't pass a ball, but he's also not someone like Tierney who's going to drive forward with the ball and become a second left back. I think you'll see Callum McGregor run forward a lot more, and he'll be the one who tries to replicate the forward runs of Tierney in that position. But no major surprises that it is McKenna, who's come off the bench twice in the tournament so far, that slots into the back three.
I'm actually not concerned at all. I agree with you that Kieran Tierney's driving runs from the back, penetrating runs through that, the defensive third into midfield is a very good and potent offensive weapon. But similarly, I think that if you give the defenders the opportunity to give the ball to Billy Gilmore, then good things will happen. It's more onus on Billy Gilmore, but I think he can step up to that. He can develop play rather than coming out off either side of the central defensive players. I totally agree with you. Callum McGregor's got a lot to do, and perhaps he will have to almost take on that mantle of delivering on the left side. But I actually think that works. It doesn't give me any problems. I think it's fine. I think in terms of this Hungary team, Scott McKenna brings some positives that Kieran Tierney wouldn't. For example, he's a lot better in the air. He's used to dealing with the English Championship, the English Premier League, where set-piece coaching is a regular staple, high-end set pieces. We know this Hungary team is very good at set pieces. Scott McKenna in both boxes, and we've heard that a lot in club football in Scotland, being good in both boxes. But he might actually help that. One other thing I would like to say, Josh, just about in terms of a change of shape. Again, going back to club football, we've talked about over the last season, teams that have been built to play one way and then trying to make that squad play another. I think that's what would have happened with Clark if he'd gone to a back four. This squad was built to play three at the back. And I don't think Scotland have the wingers to necessarily come in on both sides and give Scotland what they need. So I think that's why you wouldn't change it. I would not have been for going to a back four. This team know how to play a back three. I think that's where they have had success. And if Clark was to deviate from that and Scotland were to go out tonight, he'd be heavily criticised.
Yeah, he'll be heavily criticised regardless if they don't go through, will he? In midfield, there was some concern from our Hungarian counterparts in the Hungarian media that Dominik Szoboszlai might not make today's game. He trained away from the team the last couple of days. His manager, Marco Rossi, was at pains to suggest that was simply about effectively energy levels after a really long season. He is so clearly their most important player. People, I'm sure, will be familiar with Hungary's style of play, which bases a lot of what they do around him. He picks up very free positions. A lot of the time that's been on the left-hand side, which will be a danger for Scotland tonight. That's clearly who they have to stop. It's difficult to stop him because I don't think they'll man-mark him in the way that they reacted to the way that Toni Kroos dominated the Germany game by man-marking a slightly less but still very effective player in Granit Xhaka with Scott McTominay largely sitting on him when Switzerland were trying to build up. Szoboszlai is a key danger man. On the other side of things, Scott McTominay was far improved against Switzerland. I thought John McGinn was better. I think a lot of people still think he has levels to improve. Gilmour and McGregor looked a lot more comfortable with Gilmour next to him, and Gilmour clearly just improves the Scotland team whenever he plays. The midfield is always key, but if Scotland are going to go through, that four are going to have a good game, and they're going to have to be able to stop Szoboszlai. Not only in open play, but as you just mentioned as well, is set-piece delivery. And if people don't know, Hungary had the best set-piece expected goals, created the most shots per 90 from set-pieces in qualifying, so that's going to be a big factor tonight as well.
Yeah, I think the big ask is Billy Gilmour going to be expected to pick up Szoboszlai, or will Grant Henry push up onto him? Or to just try and make sure that he doesn't have too many sights to go by getting closed down? I don't know. It's a really difficult one because you're talking about a player that's got the intelligence, the power, the pace to cause real problems. But you've got to hope that Steve Clark's got a plan for dealing with a player like that, especially if he's not fully fit. And he's had one of these weeks where it's just not going to be his game tonight. That's what you hope. The reality might be something completely different. But I think that he's not a Toni Kroos for me. He's not a top drawer player. He might get there. He's not a Musiala for me. He might get there. He's a guy that's in maybe 2-3 years he'll be at that level if his career continues on the same trajectory. So I'm not sure you would have a set plan where you're always having to deal with him at all times. But he's someone that poses a massive threat, and I think they've got another player you would probably want to talk about down that left flank that's fairly dangerous.
Yeah, Milos Kerkez, who plays for Bournemouth, he plays primarily at left back, has played in the left wing as well. I just think that is the area where Scotland were weak on the right-hand side. And look, Ralston is a better player than he showed against Switzerland. He's clearly not one of the stronger players in this team. It's not only about how Scotland look defensively on that side, though, but it's also how they progress the ball, because we know they might be slightly weaker playing out in the left with no Kieran Tierney. We saw that they were a much more aggressive version of themselves against Switzerland. I think that needs to continue tonight. They are at their best when they're on the front foot, and sometimes that can look like sitting in a block and not always running forward. But we saw them just a far less passive performance against Switzerland as compared to Germany. So the left-hand side especially, and I think you'll see Szoboszlai, he does have this free role as manager, spoken about how the style of play that Hungary are opting for effectively bases a lot of their play around the pockets that Szoboszlai picks up. He has got a lot of freedom to discern where he goes. I agree with you. I don't think he can man mark him because I don't think it's likely because his movement is so unpredictable. To go back to the Scotland midfield, the best chance of goals, we've just said that it's good that Che Adams is back in the fold as the Scotland goalkeepers come out to warm up in front of us. Scotland's most likely source of goals, though, remains Scott McTominay in central midfield. We saw that against Switzerland. He was far better in matchday 2 against matchday 1. I think he could be Scotland's most important player tonight.
Absolutely. It's those cutbacks from Andy Robertson that Scott McTominay has shown himself to be so adept at getting on the end of. And if he can continue to do that tonight, I think Scotland can do very well out of it. The one thing that really gave me a lot of cheer, Josh, was that in the games before the actual tournament began, he looked a bit sluggish. He looked like he was finding his fitness after a period out. And even against the Germany game, he looked like he was still working through the gears. And I thought really against Switzerland, you saw a guy that looked like fresh-legged. You know, he looked like, right, I'm hitting my stride here. And maybe, hopefully, this game has come at exactly the right time for Scott McTominay. But listen, I always put the challenge to John McGinn. These fans around the stadiums and in the cities have been just giving John McGinn nothing but adulation since we got here. They sing his song more than they sing any other. I've rarely seen a player that's captured the heart of the Tartan Army so significantly. I think he's still got a bit to go. I don't think he deserves that adulation. Do you know what? He can shove my words right up my backside tonight if he goes and does it, because scoring a goal tonight that says Scotland through is history making. It's undeniable. It's the end. It's the full stop. That's it. So I think it's on John McGinn to go and earn that adulation tonight. I know he's got 18 goals. His scoring record for Scotland is phenomenal. But go out and do it in the biggest stage possible tonight. And if he can do that, there's nobody can have any criticism left for him. But listen, for me, he's shown up for 1/2 out of 4 in this tournament. And I want to see a John McGinn that lives up to the billing tonight. And I hope we do.
Okay, then finally, as we wrap out before the teams come out, I think Scotland's quite a pessimistic nation, but I think you'd have to be the ultimate pessimist to have been out here in Germany and not predict a Scotland win tonight. I think to try and add a bit more nuance to it, it is there for them, isn't it? Because Hungary are a good team. They're 14 games unbeaten coming into this competition. I guess all you can ask for on a big stage like this is that you get the opportunity to go out and make history. Scotland have the opportunity to do that tonight. I'll press you for a score prediction, and then I will also ask where you think specifically this game will be won and lost. We've spoken about the right-hand side for Scotland. We've spoken about the centre of midfield and how that's going to be absolutely key as Hungary come out to warm up in front of us. But put it to you, a score prediction, and where is this game going to be won and lost tonight?
Well, score prediction, I'm going to go for 2-1 Scotland. I think it'll be a really close, bitty, horrible game. I don't think this is going to be entertaining for the purists. Fundamentally, I would not be surprised if there was one goal in it, or if it was 0-0 going into the closing stages either. I think it'll be really tight. Why is this game different, Josh? That's the question. I've got a list here. You know, Scotland going into the last game needing a result to go through. Uruguay in '86, Brazil in 1990, Switzerland in '96, and Morocco in '98. And in each of these situations, sometimes there was a draw, sometimes there was a loss, sometimes there was a win, and none of them led to the promised land of the last 16. Why is it different? Well, I'll tell you why it's different for me, Josh. In each of these occasions, the teams that Scotland were up against were far better than the one we're up against tonight. We can get really caught up in the fact that they've got a £70 million midfielder who plays for Liverpool. The truth is, in terms of the rest of their team, there's no great superstars in there. I don't think overall their profile is any different to what we have. And that wasn't the case in these other games, I don't think. I think the Swiss in '96, for example, probably had better players. And Scotland outperformed themselves by going and winning that game. Against Morocco in '98, I think they were the African Cup of Nations winners. people dismissed that. And back in 1998, it was a lot of ignorance about the wider football environment. There isn't that now because the internet is much more linked together. I remember going up to that game and really thinking Scotland would win, and just watching that game, Morocco were playing liquid football, and Scotland were never in it, never near it. So, listen, I don't think that's the case tonight. I think these two teams are evenly matched, and I fancy Scotland to just have enough to edge it. I think the other element that we've not talked about, Josh, it's key. This team are out. They're out. You know, if they win, they've got a small chance of going through. But it's very, very small. You know, we know that ourselves. If Scotland had lost that game, we were saying, look, we're out. You know, mathematically, it's still possible they could go through. I don't think you will. And because of that, and because they've lost the two games, I think Scotland will be more motivated. They know what's there. They know what's there to grasp. And I'm hoping that you'll see that tonight out there. Because, listen, there's been a lot of chat about, if Scotland draw, the potential to go through. I don't see it. I don't think that's going to happen. Likewise, there's been some chat about if Scotland win, they might not go through. Again, I think these are two massive outliers either side. Scotland have to win for me, and if they win, I'm sure they'll be through. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah, just win Scotland. If only it was as simple as that. We'll be back on the full-time whistle regardless of the score. Hopefully it's a good one. Enjoy the game wherever you're watching it. Keep up to date with us on Herald Sport on Twitter, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.